Good afternoon, good morning. I'm Alexey Arfemov. I'm glad to see you and greet you here for the special report of the authorized of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine on human rights, the local program on internally displaced persons, support, analysis, effectiveness and perspective. Thank you everyone who are joining us and will join online. So let's start with the organizational things. So security is first of all. During the alert, we will assess the threat, and if necessary, we will require you to go to the shelter and show you the path to it. As for the agenda, there are going to be 2 Q&A sessions. The questions you will be able to ask to everyone who is here in this hall and to the participants of the program. It's going to be a heated discussion, I anticipate, and interesting, as these talk how the internal displaced person program support works in reality. It's going to be a reality check, what tools are really working and what is just a formality. And the main thing that we need to change to provide the best support for internally displaced persons and for it to be more effective and systematic. So for the opening report, we have a special speech by the authorized person of human rights from Verkhovna Rada, Mr. Lubinets. Good morning, dear colleagues. I'm glad to greet you all here. I will tell you sincerely, for us today, it's not just a report, like a document, but it's one of the priority directions that our institution is working on, me personally, and we clearly understand that having the internally displaced persons as a category of our citizens from 2014, we have a lot of issues for their rights protection as the category of citizens of Ukraine. So when the idea appeared to work on this special report, we started to think, first of all, that we have issues and we need to know them, we need to implement them, and most importantly, we need to submit recommendations to Verkhovna Rada. As the authorized from Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, I clearly understand that the position of not noticing this is the problem causes even more problems and even more complexity of those problems, and the resolution of those issues will require even more time and efforts and finances. And the quicker we will understand the issue, the easier it will be to cope with it for all of us. So today I represent, together with my team, the special report which you have in your hands, both in electronic form and in the hard copy. So I advise to all the internally displaced persons to read it, and you will find a lot of answers to your questions, probably. Definitely, this special report wouldn't be here without the support of our partners, and I want to thank the Red Cross Fellowship of Ukraine for their systematic support in preparation of this report and organization of this event. Dear colleagues, today we're gonna be talking not about declarations, some words, but some real solutions, real decisions, the budget, the programs, mechanisms of control, and most importantly about the people who were forced to leave their hometowns due to the armed aggression of Russian Federation. And let's go straightforwardly to the numbers. In Ukraine, there are 4,609,109 internally displaced persons in Ukraine are registered as of this month. I remember that last year I publicly announced this huge number. It would appear to someone that we still have in the processes. Unfortunately, the Russian Federation occupies new territories, but the problems are even more. And what's the main problem is that most probably we don't have the clear mechanism to analyze those statistics. Second, a lot of internally displaced persons make decision to leave Ukraine abroad, and they simply take out of the status. They get rid of the status. And unfortunately, sometimes the citizens of Ukraine get back to the temporarily occupied areas. Unfortunately, during the preparation of this report, we analyzed 1,375 local target programs and collected data from 1,368 respondents from all the regions of Ukraine. Out of them, more than 700 representative local government, 604 of local internally displaced person councils, and more than 100 of the regional councils. We are talking about all national picture, not just the separate regions. The total number is impressive. There are 1,375 programs for internally displaced person support. It's quite a large number, and the quantity of this program not always about the quality, unfortunately. And the question after this report were very shocking. You can see the picture, the map of Ukraine with the numbers of internally displaced person programs, and we can see certain inequality. In some region, we can see the support as a priority. In other regions, it's just partial. In some other oblasts, we can see the obvious deficit of the solutions and decisions. The strongest regions are Volynska, Vinnytska, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kyiv, Zaporizhzhia, Luhansk, Mykolaiv, Poltava, and Cherkasy Oblast. As examples, in Vinnytsia Oblast, 100% of communities have accepted the programs of support for IDPs. In Luhansk areas, Oblast, we have 144 local target programs, even in occupied territories. And we have the results, very tangible results. The priorities for internally displaced persons priority are also tangible in Zhytomyr, Zakarpattia, Vinnytsia, Odessa, Sumy, Kherson, Khmelnytsky, Chernivtska, and Chernihiv Oblast. Their communities either create separate programs or integrate the IDP program into the general policies. The critical situation in Ivano-Frankivsk, Ternopil, Kharkiv Oblast, and also Kyiv city. Those are the regions where the support should be most tangible, but on reality it's ignored. It's being ignored. And it's not about statistics, it's about different approach to human unity. Somewhere they're just waiting for decisions and solutions and try to, sometimes they make it and try to support it, and sometimes they just ignore it. And it turns our attention that we just analyzed the quantity of the programs, and then we will analyze the content and the essence of these programs. And separately, when I name the oblast, we have some exceptions that are the separate communities. When we are talking about Kharkiv Oblast, for example, we have positive example as a Kharkiv city, and today I will be talking separately about it. We also have a logical and painful question: why is it so? Why is this situation? First of all, the major quantity of the program doesn't have the necessary financing. We allegedly have a document, it's been endorsed, but in practice it's just a dead document without any funding. 32% of regional programs don't have any financing at all. So practically 1/3 of the programs of papers are endorsed without any hryvnia to implement those programs. On the level of communities, the situation is even more difficult. Let's look at the examples. On the Oblast and Kyiv city, 25 complex programs have been endorsed with general budget of 21 billion hryvnias, from which large quantity are prescribed for 25th year, but these numbers require clarification. For example, in Zhytomyr, Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, Odessa, Kherson, Khmelnytsk Oblast, and in Kyiv city, they basically don't have separate funding, so they have programs endorsed, they have results on the paper, but it doesn't equal to the real money which are going to the communities. Even more, where the budgets are prescribed, the planned numbers doesn't correspond to real expenditure. Sometimes these are just formal calculations or just a part of the existing expenditures that's been just inscribed into the program. And we understand clearly that without the real financing, no program, whatever great it is on a paper, it won't work. Another problem that we identified, it's the absence of systematic analysis of the needs, both on the level of introduced program and also during the creation of the new ones. Only 16% of the program have clear and measurable effectiveness indicators. I always turn our attention to this because when the program is vague, without understanding how to analyze whether it's performed or implemented or not, without any specific criteria of effectiveness of this program, without the specific money for the specific measures, and when the agenda and the program is just like we all for everything good and against everything bad. 64% are just formal indicators. If more than 30% doesn't have any indicators at all. 13% of occasions are not provided at all. According to the data, 54 occasions are with a full investigation of the needs, 34% only partial, and out of this 13% doesn't have any analysis at all. If we will take a look at the internally displaced person councils, when we did the questionnaires, and the picture that we had is slightly different and better. 70% with full research, 22% only partial, and 8% without it. It shows not only the difference in assessment, but also difference in perception of the situation depending on who assesses it. And it's connected very frequently with the fact that the representatives of the ADP councils perceived positively that they at least accepted and endorsed this program, and it gives grounds to assume that it's a positive step. But unfortunately, if we will dive into details of these programs, they either don't give the information for ADPs or give it in the way that they still don't have the systematic analysis. Another indicator is interaction with the partners. Only 10% of the representatives of local council have indicated that they are involving partners on a constant basis or NGOs to implement the program. 63% at all doesn't have this interaction or cooperation at all. And take into account the fact that we thought that in Ukraine we have systematic involvement of the international partners, and these are opportunities to involve initiatives, but in reality it depends on the desire to cooperate with the partners and involve them into the implementation of local programs. To put it simply, the significant number of the programs doesn't have the clear indicators, neither the strong partnership support. So it's weak not just by content, but also by the mechanism of implementation. IDPs is not just statistics. They also changing with the security situation, with the life situation changes, and when we don't have the diagnosis, we can't take it into account. Third problem: absence of IDP participation into the decision making relating to IDPs. So only 2 out of 3 IDP council are involved indeed into the elaboration of the program, implementation of the program, participation in the analysis of the program. That means that the part of these decisions, 2/3 of these decisions, are made without any participation of IDP citizens that are living in Ukraine. And we have another troubling number: 37% of the programs doesn't have any measurable indicators of effectiveness. So we don't even have answer to the question whether this program works. So on the paper, the system is very scalable, is very large. We have 1,022 councils for IDPs, 25 on the oblast level, 102 on the regional level, and 896 on the level of communities. And So creation of this IDP Council looks like it protects its rights, and if there is certain priority in Ukraine to them in certain region and certain oblasts, but in fact it's not like that. In order to give IDP to take real part in decision making, it's a totally different thing. According to the assessment of local governments, they actively involved into the preparation of local programs, and it's done only in 15% of the programs. On the level of IDP councils, 61% of councils only have it. In Cherkasy it's only 26%. In Zaporizhia Oblast it's only 18%. Even where IDP require attention the most, their voice is just not heard, and they don't have any real influence on decision making. So it's very important to take into account the conclusion of this report. There's different vision between government and IDP, both for the program and endorsement of the program and financing and implementation of these programs. The local government considers that they're involved, but the IDPs don't feel it. This is a this is a gap between these two visions. 71%, Zakarpattia 45%, in other regions from 20 to 39%. This means that one side is talking about participation, another side doesn't feel it. It's not a dialogue, it's just imitation of the process to fulfill some global decision of the country to allegedly care about IDP rights. We had a lot of occasions when we just have an imitation of support, but in fact, when you talk to the IDPs, when you speak with them, we have totally different picture. The most difficult problem that they talk right away is housing. In our view, it's the biggest problem on the local level. For example, in Ukraine we have 1,075 places for accommodation of IDPs located in more than 480 communities. But to create the community is one thing, but I would remind you that we started the system for monitoring of IDPs from 2022, and from that time we also have started to fix and to notice that we don't have the same amount of IDPs. Ministry have one number, each oblast has another number, and the community has the third number. And when we took our own people and took the partners and started the trip to all these places where they live, we found even the fourth number. And unfortunately, since that time, the systematic practice hasn't changed, and even if it has changed, not too much. So it's been created, but how to receive this MTP and to dispense funds for their functioning? Only 312 local programs have these measures to create, to equip and support of MTP. So around 170 communities, they have this a temporary place for their living MTP, but there is no concrete way how to get this in systematic way. It's troubling for us because the places are created, but there are no programs for their normal functioning. Problem exists, people exist, but no systematic solution, unfortunately. Our special report is not just analytics, not just numbers. We clearly understand that under this dry document, we are talking about destinies of more than 4.6 million citizens of Ukraine. So when we use the IDP term, let's for a second step out of this abbreviation, because this IDP term is most of all about our people, the people who, not of their own desire or not their own personal guilt, have lost everything. They were forcefully moved to their new places and depend on all of us, whether they will feel cared about and real citizens of Ukraine who require the respective attitude and respective care. It depends on all of us, but first of all on the executive government. These are the different ages people, different professions. These are the people who felt on themselves what it means to suffer, to be a victim of the armed aggression of Russia. When we started the preparation to this report, I tasked my team with very simple question. Okay, we will do it, this report. How it will help the specific citizens of Ukraine to get better? Would we be able to at least start to change the situation for the better, and we would start to really care for the IDPs? Whether it will exist only as a report, or another time me as an authorized person from Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, from the pulpit where I will present this report, maybe in Verkhovna Rada, maybe another podium. So I will raise these problematic questions and require from and demand from the executive authorities some thematic decisions, solutions, whether would we have the results. Unfortunately, dear colleagues, I clearly understand as a person who, together with my team, have elaborated it's about 10th report, anniversary report. It's even the elaboration and not just the representation of this document doesn't mean that anything will change. So we would like that the biggest quantity of the people who are here today and other people who would be present, who really make decision and who really on whom it depends whether this document will be not just a document but will be a tangible result that will change the life for the IDPs for the better. But from my point of view, it's just a legal document that will for sure serve as a roadmap. And while presenting this special report, I want to tell you that in 6 months we will publicly analyze in the same way how the situation changed in Ukraine. And it's my personal desire that it will change for the better, because if today we only naming oblasts, so in 6 months I will use a practice to name specific communities with specific directors and chiefs, those who have best practices and those who have worst practices. The significant part of this special report is recommendation from me as authorized of Verkhovna Rada on human rights. I consider them to be the urgent that needs to be changed urgently. Take also considering the recommendation to the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine to endorse the renewed strategy of state policy in the sphere of IDPs, endorse the operational plan of its implementation, to envisage the indicators of effectiveness and mechanism of control. It's important that the strategy should also include not just the mechanism but the obligations for the military administrations and these local self-government, how to implement the state local programs for IDP support, for Ministry of Development and Ministry of Social Policy, to endorse a methodological recommendation to, as for the development of local programs, they should be clear, strict, practical, how to assess needs of IDPs, how to elaborate on effectiveness measures and indicators, how to involve the IDPs themselves for decision making. According to my personal conviction, these local programs will remain unequal throughout all the territory of Ukraine. the recommendation to the local governments, authorities to analyze, renew, and or develop the measures of control and effectiveness indicators to provide funding and to provide the participation of IDPs during the elaboration of this program and the endorsement. The key message is very simple. The IDP support program should be an obligation, not just declaration for the self-governance authorities. We understand how many challenges self-government has right now. Self-governance authorities have right now, that they're lacking money, but you also are obliged at least to take some steps to show the IDP citizens of Ukraine that you value them and understand them as a full-fledged members of your communities, that these people can significantly strengthen your new community and automatically provide the opportunities for even to even create more opportunities for these communities. But this depends on you, first of all. With the same respect, it's very critical to enhance coordination between different levels of governance and non-governmental sector. Today we can see duplication or just gaps between these needs of IDPs that are not fulfilled. I address all the representatives and all the national government representatives for local and national level. Please review those documents, not just like dry numbers, but have an attitude that this document talks about people, and if your programs would be able to help those people who came to you, it will be already our great common victory. And when you elaborate the programs, maybe it's hard to understand at first, but just at the moment try to look at them with the eyes of the person who lost everything, lost his whole previous life, his house, everything he was building during the decades. It just has to start everything from scratch in a new place. Maybe it will help you to change your attitude to the citizens, IDP citizens, and also to your work and your obligation for these programs. We are obliged to build the system where the protection of rights of IDP is not just formality, but the real solutions working every day. As a conclusion, I would like to state that, first of all, this special report wouldn't be possible without support of our partners. I thank you to the Red Cross Fellowship of Ukraine, the separate gratitude to Mr. Maxim Zatsarkovny, who is together with us, is here. He's the advisor to the General Director of the community. And I would like to add that to me, as an authorized person, while I raise this question, it's not easy. And I also clearly understand what it means to be IDP, because even despite the fact I never did the status, because everyone knows that I wasn't just born in Volnovakha, Donetsk Oblast, but also I was there last time on 7th of March 2022, when Russian army destroyed it almost totally, but we still had on the suburbs of the east town our boys and girls who continued to fight for this city. These days I lost almost everything that my family was building and me personally was building. And I started to think what I should start with, the new life with my wife, 2 children, and how to start the new life for my parents as well, who were 67 years old at that time, who lost everything there. And thanks God we have children who can help. They have children who can help. But what can the person do who doesn't have this support from the children, from family, on whom he can rely, this person can rely? For me, the answer is clear: the state, Ukraine.
Because Ukraine is the state which is obliged to do everything so that the citizens of Ukraine could feel this pride for the citizenship, could feel that even during such a huge tragedy there can be found an opportunity to help, and the issue of IDPs is definitely in the priority of the public policy, of the government, of the parliament, of the local self-governance authorities. Unfortunately, according to the practice, sometimes, and not even sometimes, but always, we can see the totally different approaches. So can the situation be changed? I'm sure it has to cardinally change. And this is why we have developed this special report, and this is the reason why I presented it today, and this is why we will go on together with the NGOs and public organizations to implement the systematic monitoring and analysis what is done by the authorities so that really the citizens of Ukraine with the status of an IDP could stay in Ukraine and really began to develop their own new life. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Thank you, Dmytro, for the presentation of the report and that you shared your personal story with us. So, dear colleagues, I think that this is a very specific picture and very understandable recommendations. I would like to remind you that in your handouts you have the full text of the report and also the participants online. I'm speaking to you now. The organizers will share the text of the report in the chat. The organizers, by the way, prompted me that we have more than 800 participants online with us, and the text of the report will be sent out to the emails which you submitted while registering. We have heard a very important thing, that the local programs are multiple, but their quality can be totally diverse. Somewhere, as Dmytro said, they are supported by funding, by analysis of needs and the real participation of IDPs, and somewhere still they are more of a formal document. So further on we will be talking about the practical aspects, how we can make local programs of support of IDPs efficient, in particular how to assess needs, how to involve the community of IDPs, and how to monitor outcomes, not only to report about the process. So I invite to the participation in this panel discussion Deputy Head of Zhytomyr Regional Military Administration, Viktor Hradivsky. A round of applause goes to him. Deputy Head of Kharkiv City on Accessibility of Veterans Policy and IDPs, Yuri Shparaha, please. The head of IDP Council at Zaporizhia Military Regional Administration, Anastasia Parapolitsia, and also we are joined online by the Deputy Head of Kirovograd Regional Military Administration, Katerina Koltunova, and the moderator of our discussion will be the head of the project of Council of Europe for the access of people and main services for IDPs and people who are coming back to Ukraine, Svetlana Butenko. Please, I'm giving the floor to you. Good day, dear colleagues, friends. I welcome all of you here and thank you for the invitation to the Commissioner's office for the moderation of this important discussion. Today, together with the representatives of the authorities, of the local self-governance authorities and IDP councils, we need to stipulate whether we can create local programs for the support of IDPs and make them more efficient. Dmytro already summed up the factors which decrease the efficiency of local targeted programs, that is, the scarce funding, the lack of the needs assessment, the formal involvement of the IDPs, the lack of the measurable indicators, and periodic reporting. But for the IDP, for the person, the inefficient program means when his or her needs are still invisible. They are not taken into consideration and maybe even not researched enough, so they are not satisfied. In 2024, when in the Council of Europe office we were working on the methodological recommendations on the analysis and assessment of the local targeted programs to take into consideration the IDP's needs, we were trying to prove that the assessment itself is the best and the simplest safeguard from inefficiency. And however, our today's discussion is not self-assessment because the assessment was done by the Commissioner's office, I would ask our speakers to delve delve deeper into the elements of your own assessment of programs which are adopted in the regions or cities. Please focus on how and according to which these programs were prepared for, how the measures were implemented, how they were assessed, and maybe which changes are planned still. Before the speech of each of the participants, I will provide a short information from the special report. For the speech of the participant, there will be up to 5 minutes, if I may. If you allow me, I will raise my hand when your time is up. Then there will be a short question, your answer, and the answers and the questions of the participants from the audience will be heard after the end of our discussion. So, I would offer that we should start with Zhytomyr region. Some information from the special report. The part of IDP approximately in Zhytomyr region is 6.3%. The region has adopted the comprehensive program of social support of IDPs for 2025. However, what we can drive attention to, the program does not include separate budget, and all of the measures don't have the timeline. So at the level of territorial community, as we also have 61 more targeted local program, but only in half of the cases before the creation of the program there has been the needs assessment, and only in the half of the cases as well there is the mechanism for the efficiency assessment. So I give the floor now to Viktor Hradivsky, Deputy Head of Zhytomyr Regional Military Administration. Please comment and reflect about this topic, but please take the mic. Thank you. Good day. First of all, I would like to thank you, Dmytro, that you raised such an acute issue and you have a systematic approach to it, analyzing the programs of the local self-governance authorities, regional programs. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this panel. And I would like to remark a bit. We are working in different systems, I'd say, and we have different views, but I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to critically look at my region and on the work of my colleagues, the heads of the territorial communities. But I'd like to assure you that we have lots of money allocated, considering our budget, for the implementation of a certain program. The only thing that, of course, there is a budgetary process, and the colleagues know that if during the martial law we could introduce amendments to the budget only once quarterly and maybe 2 or 3 times per year, as of today 2 times a month is not a rare thing to do. So in the budget, in the programs, sometimes we lag behind or the figures do not coincide. So we found the way out of this situation. We gave the opportunity to fund our programs, which is not only about IDPs, at the expense of all of the amendments to the budgets. Altogether, from the regional budget during the last year, we allocated 112 million hryvnias for the support of IDPs. Looking at the budget, that is 372 million hryvnia. Those are totally different programs, and surely each community, according to the active legislation, is adopting the social passport of the communities, assesses the needs of the community, and also provides the assessment of social policies which need to be provided in the communities. All of that is correlated with the National Social Service, with the representatives of the Commissioner and of the Parliament on Human Rights at the places, and all of us are also trying to study from our errors. We introduce certain changes and amendments. We don't say that the adopted program is perfect. Of course it's not. Whether we would like to do more, of course we would like to. But it's important to understand. It's important to find the balance between the needs which the region faces and the needs or tasks which are appointed by the President of Ukraine, the Parliament of Ukraine, the Cabinet of Ministers as well. As for the communities, 66 communities adopted these programs, all of them. I'm ready to show all of them if it is needed, if necessary, but the issue is not in the number of programs, but on the contents, how we fill these programs with. Our internally displaced persons, and I fully agree with Dmytro, We need to get away from this notion, from this definition. Those are the residents of Zhytomyr region. We're constantly in touch with them, we're working with them on a permanent basis. Moreover, those are the people who came to us, moved to us, integrated into our society. Let me be sincere, they are already the MPs of the local councils, they are the heads at the key positions in the territorial communities, in the local self-governance and executive branch authorities. Those are the people who are replacing or strengthening, this would be the right thing to say, our labor potential and capacity, which we have issues with. Recently, we visited with the deputy head of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, one of the communities, Brusiliv community. It used to be a front line 4 kilometers from it. This community has 10,000 of population. During the beginning of the full-scale invasion, it has been doubled. There was not a single building without the IDPs there. At the point now, we have 1,100 of our defenders protecting our state from this community, originating from it, but the need in labor resources in the staff is still relevant, and partially it is replaced by the IDPs. We do everything possible so that we could make their life as convenient as possible. Which issues we face? Let me be frank. 1 minute left. Okay, so the key issue is what we have developed and processed with our civil sector, with our IDPs, the Council of IDPs, is accommodation, of course. Everybody understands that it's hard to fully provide with accommodation, but all of us are working on the systematic way with the central authorities so that we could do everything possible, whatever we can, to provide them with accommodation. Their number is not decreasing. We have the permanent arrival of IDPs, not only families with children, those are also the elderly. We are using such an actively such an service as the nursery support, which has been developed by the Ministry of Healthcare, and I am grateful to other ministries who have adopted certain resolutions allocating funding to equip the places of temporary residence, and we also involve our civil sector like ICRC, Arcada, like Caritas, who are also actively working, and they're both helping to improve and develop and construct accommodation for the IDPs in our places for temporary residence, but they also are working to improve the accommodation which people have provided voluntarily, charitably, so that the IDPs could use it totally for free. But someone has repairment works, maintenance works, and all of that is very important. And the third issue, which I'd like to focus attention on, is the barrierlessness issue, and that is more about an aspect of the work in the media, of the change of information field, when we specifically understand that this is the necessity and the requirement of today to create the barrierless space, not only physically, but the whole spectrum, which includes the notion of barrierlessness. But simultaneously, we'd like the society to understand and perceive it. When we develop barrierless routes so that our IDPs, our defenders, could use the services which are provided by the communities at the places, the administrative and social services, we even provide construction works, people need to perceive that in a proper way. And they shouldn't say that you should allocate money for drones only or to protect our state. Of course it is needed, but I think that this is the issue which is incredibly important as well, and we need to raise it too. Thank you. Thank you, Victor. It's very nice to hear that you consider the IDPs as the strengthening of the community, in particular in the staff potential, and you've already touched the issue of the needs, in particular the needs for accommodation. But altogether, what do you think? Whether the researched and assessed needs of the IDPs in your community are satisfied enough? I would consider this issue in a broader fashion. We don't have just a Zhytomyr territorial community, which is one and big one. We have 66 of communities in each of parts of our region, and every single one of them has its own peculiarity. Not all of the communities are like Zhytomyr. There are rather smaller communities which consist of 4 or 5 villages. And those social services, well, definitely our key objective is to provide all of the social and administrative services to each resident of the community, whether those are IDPs or the people who have been born and are living in Zhytomyr region. The key objective, well, we need to understand that this is the full integration of IDPs into the society in the state, how it finds itself. Can I say that everything has been done? Of course it's not. We need to work on. We need to understand that life is changing. New services are being added. And our task is to develop such a system when the IDP would understand that he or she can use all of the services which the state provides. How did we find the way out? According to our social services, based upon our departments and units which were functioning in each of the communities, we created certain IDP units or departments where we have the appointed responsible persons who are responsible for the reception of the IDPs, the work with them, and this system is working on a daily basis. It is well thought through, and the challenges which we are facing are worked upon, and we are trying to, for people, or we try to make it for the people so that they wouldn't notice that there is an issue. Of course, there is some room for improvement, and we need to take into account the experience which Dmytro drew our attention to, and the analysts who conducted this research of our work. We need to correct the mistakes and to optimize our work. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Let us move to Kirovograd region. The representative of the Kirovograd region is online with us. So could you please show us? So some information from the special report. Approximate share of the IDPs in Kirovograd region is 9.2%. The vast majority of communities of the region have special programs for IDPs. The regional program has the biggest budget among the similar programs in Ukraine. A rather high level of activity of the IDP councils, and one of the highest levels of the satisfaction of needs of IDPs according to the assessment of local authorities. So I give the floor to Katerina Koltunova, who is online with us. She's deputy head of Kirovograd Regional Military Administration. Could you please comment and reflect on the topic of the programs and their implementation? Dear Commissioner, dear colleagues, I'm representing the experience of Kirovograd region. It's important to say that since the beginning of the full-scale invasion,
і загалом по регіону це найбільша кількість людей, понад 31 тисячі з Донеччини у нас. Харківської області близько 13 тисяч, Херсонської майже 2,5. Звичайно,
я вибачаюся, пані Катерино. Колеги, взагалі чутно, що говорить пані Катерина?
Colleagues, do you hear her words? No, we do not. Let us wait for the quality of the sound, and we hope that the technical team will help us to deal with that. Thank you. Could we now give the floor to a different speaker? What would you tell me, so that we could hear? Katerina, we do apologize. So far, your sound is not sufficient. We were trying to do everything possible, but it's hard to understand you, so we can lose the essence of your words. I would offer that we should move to city of Kharkiv. We are joined by Yuri Shparaha, deputy head of Kharkiv city, on accessibility of veterans policy and IDPs, and a short information from the special report. Instantly, let me say that in the special report we are speaking, and the main data was taken about Kharkiv region, not about Kharkiv city. So Yuri has the opportunity to reflect, not to comment on the outcomes of the assessment by the office. So the approximate share of IDPs in Kharkiv region is 19.7%. Altogether, the region has 56 communities and 17 programs for IDP support. All of them are special ones. Out of 52 IDP councils of different levels created in the region, the active participation in the development of targeted programs were taking part 12 of them, including the IDP Council at Kharkiv City Council. So, Yuri, please, the floor is yours. Good day, dear colleagues. First of all, thank you for the invitation for such a respected audience where I can express our position and to tell how we live in Kharkiv. So, as of today, let me start with the following. As of 21st of February 2022, the population of Kharkiv city was approximately 1,600,000 people. After the invasion into the city, you know that Kharkiv had street fights and combats. Kharkiv was at war since the first days, so the city was left by 1 million people. So we had approximately 100,000 of population left. The population was affected since the first days. The residential buildings were destroyed, as well as the transport, land transport, and the population of Kharkiv moved to the underground for about a couple of months, more than 2 months. Some part of the population of Kharkiv city were living in the underground. This was the situation. When the people were taken out of the underground to launch the transport system, to begin the adaptation to the current situation which the population of Kharkiv city found out itself in, the mayor of Kharkiv, Igor Terechov, said a key phrase: "We don't have IDPs anymore. We have new Kharkiv residents, and that's it." We had the population which has been affected. Who was affected more? The resident of northern Saltivka part of the city, where the house has been destroyed, or the IDP who moved to our city from Luhansk or Donetsk regions. So all of the people were found out in the same boat. So transport has been launched. The first decision taken by the local council about that was to create free trips using public transport for Kharkiv residents. So is it needed or not when everybody was affected by the war? So the mayor of Kharkiv took the decision to make free public transport. It is free still, including the underground, for all of the Kharkiv residents. Then there was the issue of food, of hot food for people. Some buildings were destroyed, and we had already 90,000 of them then, the ones who moved to us in 2015. 90,000 of IDPs were living with us. We were working with them, met them on the streets. These people have adapted to Kharkiv life. They bought their apartments. They were living their normal lives. The next decision taken by the local council was to provide hot food for free for the residents of Kharkiv. As of today, free food in Kharkiv is allocated on a daily basis for 58,000 of people, including approximately 12 or 13,000 of IDPs. We have a certain procedure according to which these people are getting food. 9 points where we give out this food in Kharkiv city. The system is working in a stable manner. These heads of the local administrations are communicating with them. This is a kind of a family. Every head of administration knows his or her IDPs, especially the ones who, because of certain circumstances, had complicated life circumstances and so on. That is why today in Kharkiv, as I already mentioned, we have free food for the IDPs, for the ones who need that. We have free public transport, including the underground, for everybody. The next stage is employment. What needs to be done? The enterprises began to move from Kharkiv city. It's natural. It's comprehensible. We took a decision at the level of the local authorities to exempt from the taxes, from the tax for land and for real estate for the businesses of Kharkiv city, so that the turnover money which these enterprises had to invest into the production and to create job places. Yes, I understand that this is the budget which we had to fill in, let alone the economy under the conditions of war. I will not analyze this or that action. I could say that we exempted from taxation some of the enterprises, and this money through the income tax we could give more jobs to the people, and they came back to the budget. Yuri, you have 1 minute left. I just barely started. But so much time has passed. Okay, let's move on then. So the budget of Kharkiv is balanced today, and there is no need to reconsider it, to change or to cancel free public transport or free food as of today. As for IDPs, as of today, in Kharkiv city, we have 212,892 IDPs, and every week we increase the number of IDPs for about 100 persons. It's not transit. People are coming here and staying in Kharkiv city. As of the organization of work, we've created a special department at Kharkiv City Council which deals with the issues of IDPs. We opened a separate center for the administrative services provision so that all of the services which are needed by the IDPs, for them not to stand in long queues and so on. According to the Center of Administrative Services Provision, we provide other services like legal ones, humanitarian aid for everybody who needs it. We created the city space Svi, your own, thanks to our partners and other charitable foundations and organizations. People get support there, including legal assistance and other types of assistance. We have the city targeted program for the construction and acquirement of accommodation for 2030, and for all of the categories. These category can be used by the IDPs as well. We have zero interest loan. As for the integration, we have the card of Kharkiv resident. We have 150 partners providing the work of this card. This is the discount in the shopping malls for the realtors. The card for the Kharkiv resident is given as soon as the person is getting to the city of Kharkiv. The person gets an instant opportunity to get this card and to use the discount for all of the types of services which are provided for the residents of Kharkiv. Employment. Only in the healthcare institutions of Kharkiv we employed 724 doctors. The educational institutions have 822 teachers. And we also have lots of people employed in the communal and other enterprises of different types of ownership. The Center of Employment is working actively, where we offer grant programs, different types of assistance for employment. It is working well as well. 57 places of temporary residence of IDPs exists in Kharkiv as of today, where we have approximately 7,000 of people. We have the permanent monitoring work conducted in these institutions. We constantly understand what the needs of those people are. Just a couple of weeks ago, I met with the mayor of city, and he met with these people. By the way, the mayor moved to Lviv city, and he is meeting with Kharkiv residents who are IDPs in Lviv city. And now I'd like to say a bit about the state support programs. Yes, they exist. And let me say that we have e-recovery, e-Osela working well in Kharkiv city. We have approximately 36,000 of documents registered so that people could get accommodation. And we can see the real picture. People are getting accommodation. What else would I like to add? So, as for our resolution, 1176 could be taken as the basis to provide IDPs with the accommodation in the future. As for me, this is a wonderful resolution, a wonderful mechanism. We can take other categories of people and provide them with accommodation as well. So people are getting money, so people can get to the market, and the market will respond. They will construct something and sell something. Yes, not everyone can get accommodation in Kharkiv city, in Kyiv city, but still people will have the opportunity to get accommodation. The mechanism is practically working, and I need that it needs to be upscaled. And separately, I'd like to delve deeper into 815 resolution. It's remote access, right, of healthcare monitoring. If you cannot do that, just go to Vovchansk city. If you need to examine the building, if you speak about the Vovchansk, there is a huge building which is a small pile of debris, and the smaller building has the smaller pile. So this mechanism is not working, and I'd like to consider this issue as soon as possible. Why? Because if the person got some information that the residence, the accommodation has been destroyed, this information somehow is given to the Commission, which is considering it at the local level. The Commission faces the issue whether the materials are legal, which the person presented. We need an authorized authority which would provide the materials. Why? Because tomorrow this Commission, which took the document, will be asked by the law enforcement authorities, how did you define this document, whether it is appropriate or not? Another issue, if you don't introduce this information to the register of property about the residence where you used to live, and you have the document, for instance, in Vovchansk, you don't have the bureau, so we don't have any confirmation documents. What can the person do? The person is coming to the Commission and needs to confirm the right of ownership, but the bureau is destroyed there. So what do you need to confirm? The person goes to the court, and the judge says, so that we could consider the case, you need to pay the court fee. But to pay the court fee, 1%, you need to have the certificate about the price of this property.
But the person goes to certain structure, they find certain unit who provides assessment for 20,000 hryvnias, and in the end you should pay 20,000 hryvnias, and then you need to go to the court and pay one court fee, and the rent of the flat of the accommodation is assessed in about 1.5 and 2 million hryvnias, so 15,000 you need to pay more, and then the court then sees at how to approve the right for property. So instead of sending those people to live in station different places, but we need to have this on a governmental level, maybe through the ministry or some other structure, that these people would have the official document providing them the guidance where to move. Thank you, Yuri. I'm finishing now. And the last one, the constant raising of the quantity of these people. When the people came to us in 2022, now they already have their health worsened. How this is defined in Kharkiv is only on the personal contacts. So on the state level, these problems needs to be resolved. These are our new Kharkiv citizens, as I told you, so the social services are working, the territorial centers are working, they are operating, we have the day-to-day care for ordinary Kharkiv, but, for example, if we take into account the neurological problems, it needs to be resolved. So again, it's only resolved on the personal contact somehow, but it's not a governmental approach, because these are our citizens that should be cared about by the government. We, on our local level, ready to work, ready to resolve everything, but this category of people needs to be cared more. So this the situation we have in Kharkiv. Thank you for attention. Ready for your questions. Thank you, Yuri. First of all, thank you for this speech. The speech is built according to the needs that have been obviously identified by you, and you tried to fulfill them. And thank you that you raised these questions that are on the local level, requiring a regulation on the national level. Let's try to go back to Mrs. Katerina from Kirovograd Oblast. Mrs. Katerina, let's try to give a floor to you one more time. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Good morning, everyone. So are we moving forward? Still bad connection. Maybe just shorten your speech and try to speak slowly, that we could discern your speech. So I'll try to speak shortly and concisely. Okay. We will give you a few minutes and then move forward. And for now, we will go to Mrs. Anastasia from Zaporizhia Oblast with a special report. The approximate part in Zaporizhia is 13 and 5 IDPs of citizens, and before the adoption of the complex program for 2025-2026, the assessment of needs have been done. The mechanism of implementation is not envisaged. Now I invite to the floor Mrs. Anastasia Pereplitsa, the head of IDP Council in the Zaporizhia military administration. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you to the Commissioner for Human Rights for his report and for the recommendation that's been provided, and to all the team that elaborated on the document. When I saw this document, I thought that I would like to have it earlier, and if we could have it periodically, on periodic basis, it would be great. I'm honored to represent the Council, the IDP Council, and be here today. Going to the essence of this panel and to the programs, I'd like to say the following. When we were going through this questionnaire in 2025, I was given the responses taking into account 2024 experience when we are planning the program, because we have now the program for 25-26 in our oblast, and in 24 we had the renewed council for IDP, the new administration, and we started to assess the needs and cooperation mechanism. And the first thing that the administration asked us as the IDP council was that they were interested what's the picture of IDP, their portrait, their portfolio, who are those people, where they live, and what needs do they have. Then we elaborated on quite a big questionnaire, more than 100 questions, but it's modular. It can be divided in parts, it can be done in parts, and then we did this questionnaire with the support of administration, involving the sociology specialists to analyze the question that we got. And then in 2025 program, on my opinion, this program took into account the assessment of the needs that we conducted then. And generally, I'd like to speak about those programs from the point of view of 2026, and what vision do I have relating to how the system should be built in territorial communities. We have complex programs for social protection, which should encompass all the IDPs as the citizens of the community. We have relevant legislation. The community should change their documents, should also include in their statutory documents the IDPs, and local programs should provide all the services and all the support to IDPs registered on the territory of this community. Then we should form the program for support of IDPs as such, according to the special needs and according to the peculiarities of those people who we have. And these programs supporting IDPs, they need to be without any surplus information, only the necessary information. They shouldn't duplicate the complex social protection program, but correspond to those very needs that we identified during the assessment of the needs and the analysis. What do we need to make a good program for specific audience? We need to identify who are those people, what are their needs and their quantity. Then we need to provide the financial resource and to provide certain mechanisms for effectiveness assessment or performance indicators. And for each step we have the questions or issues which we face on each level. First one is data or statistics on IDPs. On the national level we plan for all the IDPs registered on the database. But on the local level, it's important for us to understand the quantity who live on our very territory, how community understands what's the quantity of IDPs do we have. They look at the database of how many they are registered there and how many documents were given by this address. But we understand that this system works on the submission basis. It's not compulsory, so our IDPs are very mobile and the verification are almost not provided. This is the first issue that we are facing during the planning of local programs. Second issue or second challenge is assessment. We made the questionnaire after that one, after we had methodological recommendation endorsed by the Ministry of Reintegration. But unfortunately, due to this uncertainty of the institutions, we lost something in this methodology, and we need to renew it and to provide for basic indicators, to create the basic list of the questions that all the communities will take into account before the planning and do these questionnaires. And thus we would be able to analyze both dynamically and between the territorial communities. For this, we need methodological support from the relevant ministry. And also the question of effectiveness, measurement and performance indicators. We understand that the quantity of programs doesn't always correspond or reflect their quality. A lot of programs don't have funding, but I want to emphasize that 80% of programs active in Zaporizhia Oblast, according to this report, they do have funding. It's a great achievement for our region, considering the situation which we face every day. And yet, considering the lack of resources, scarcity of funding, we understand the situation and we need to use the resource as maximum, as effective as possible. For this, we need to have clear KPI, key performance indicators, and I also indicated during answering of these questions. Who should participate in the assessment of those programs? First of all, the representatives of the community itself, and probably, and I think that would be correct, through the IDP councils. Going to the IDPs councils and their participation, first of all, I think and I'm grateful that the great attention was put to this in this report to the assessment of the local programs. And anyway, in the new strategy, we can see that the IDP Council has advisory functions, and now we need to provide consulting, but we don't have any tools for influence, for impact, that some decision would be made, or we could be acquainted with the programs. We have it quite frequently, not always, but anyway, we got, for example, the ready document. We have, in the best case, 1 to 3 days to look at it and give our feedback on that, and that's it for our participation. My main message: the IDPs councils should be involved on the stage of assessment, on the stage of evaluation of needs, during the elaboration of the program, during the discussion and negotiation of funding, during the identification of direction of funding, and on the assessment stage as well. Because without the real leverage of influence, our advisory role would always depend on so-called, as our commissioners say, on the desire to cooperate. But I would add also to this, on the general culture of participation, on the culture of good governance present in that or another community. So for these programs to be effective, we need to the IDP Council should have certain leverage of influence. And finalizing the speech, I would like to thank to everyone. I have no doubt in the fact that everyone who are here, they desire and they strive to make the life of IDPs better. But we need to have less competitiveness and more partnership, and thus we could increase effectiveness. Thank you. Thank you, Anastasia. I would turn your attention on this very clear suspension of these needs, of these criteria, where what we need to look at in terms of IDP Council, and you also draw your attention that we need to involve other IDPs Council and also to the colleagues who are here from self-governance authorities and state bodies. So let's thank to Katerina Kovtunova, but we apologize that due to the technical issues we can't hear her in live mode. Let's be satisfied with the fact that sometimes in certain respect in Kirovgrad region the IDPs needs are fulfilled in the best way, and let's finalize on this at this stage. And let's thank to our participants for their speeches, for these very important messages. We have 10 minutes for Q&A session from the room, and not only from the room, but as I said previously, yes, we are going to Q&A session. We have a opportunity to ask questions both from online audience and also from here who are present here. Raise your hand. If you are online, also raise your hand, and we will put you on the screen. To online participant, please also turn on your camera that we could see you, and also you have an opportunity to write your question in the chat. So please represent yourself and ask your question. Thank you. Hello everyone. I will be speaking on the next panel, but as for now, I would like to thank to Dmytro Valerievich. I'm Maxim Tkachenko from Ukrainian city of Lugansk. I am the parliamentary of Ukraine, and what we are talking about today, these local programs of IDP support. Unfortunately, I can't see the ministry representatives. Do we have them? I hope we have them, and I want to state that fortunately during last few years the government in terms of IDPs, the government has no clear stakeholders, no clear ministry who would deal with analysis of those local programs. Unfortunately, we lost the reintegration ministry. We have now this vague ministry of unity. We have very also unclear rendering of authority for IDP rights to Mr. Kuleba and his people, and who did nothing during this year. We speak openly about it. And now we have the new governance from Ministry of Social Policy, who is now gaining momentum, tries to gain momentum on everything that the Ministry of Reintegration of Development of Territories should have done. Something they can do, something they are not able to do. That's what we need to discuss with the Ministry of Social Policy. But we're not talking about government. We're talking about the fact that, thanks God, we have the State Commissioner officer from Verkhovna Rada, and this office has thousands of directions of activities, and they among those thousands of direction of activities they also deal with IDP. And from my sincere heart I want to thank you for this analysis of all those programs. Unfortunately, I wasn't present from the very beginning, and I would read this analysis in the nearest future. And I want to state that as of today in Ukraine, for me personally, as a displaced person, for parliamentary also, we have two categories of people who can give assessment to this report. Your institution, first of all, thank you for that, and people themselves. That's the most important for me, when people have their own assessment. When we go there, we meet with them on the street. And when I hear, for example, Kharkiv people who left a city and they dream about getting back because they feel support of their own native city, and the another side of the coin, and here I'm getting understanding. Обожнюю такі промови, коли він відривається. And so here I understand when this person he is elected by people. I'm not advertising anyone, but when we are asking the question to the people from Donetsk, city where we have the heads of military administration. They don't care about those people in Zhytomyr Oblast, whether they in Zhytomyr, whether they in Khmelnytsk or in wherever they are, they don't care. So we feel the difference in the attitude right away. And I want to thank you, Yuri, for supporting Kharkiv citizens, and that's what we hear from the people, for your attitude towards and for your care towards those people. And I want to thank the representatives from local and military administration, to the Zhytomyr military administration, which will provide the policy as TSK, as MFO, and we know that in Zhytomyr Oblast, yes, I want to I want to state that we don't have a large quantity of IDPs, but it still has the role. It cannot, the load is different between different oblasts, but still we want to thank Zhytomyr Oblast, Zhytomyr military administration, for supporting IDPs in Zhytomyr. And if I have still 1 minute, I have another separate case I want to say about it. Yesterday we have changes. The city head, Lutsk city head, was replaced. And a year ago we were reported when we get there in Lutsk how many departments of social protection, how many people does it have? 100 persons involved in the department with the social policy. And then I asked who deals with IDPs. Currently we will show you who does it, who do it. But we have additionally 25 people. We had this new branch for veteran protection. Okay, great. And who works with IDPs? We don't have this branch for IDPs. So it means that you work for veterans protection, you take 25 more people, and for IDP you don't have such a branch. So, and then they start to manipulate, to twist facts. You don't want to help veterans, Maxim? No, don't twist it, please. I have a question. Why you do have this veteran protection? Thank you for that, but you still don't have IDP branch. And in a year, we just talked with the families in the ordinary meeting, the family from Slavyansk. And they live, or from Bakhmut or from Slavyansk, I don't remember already. I just saw Mrs. Ulyana, she's from Slavyansk. So the person lives for 4 years in Lutsk. And mother, father, son, blind with incapability, and glory to God, they have sister who helps them. And the father, he is a chess champion of the world. And we have a blind family. For 4 years they live in Lutsk, and they didn't even visit, never met the Lutsk city head. If I was the head of the Lutsk, I would have this person also the council, the head of council for IDPs, the ambassador for sports, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't promise that we would grant the apartment for this person, but we would definitely find some social accommodation. It's almost a sin not to mention, not to notice this type of family. And this person already representing Lutsk, and he is well known all around the region. So Lutsk is the worst city in terms of IDP support, unfortunately. Thank you very much. We will invite you to the floor soon. We have another question from the hall. I'm Yaroslav Taronets. Thank you to Dmytro Valerievich. Thank you to all the present here for elaborating on this special report. I am the advocate for charity fund and also the member of IDP Council in Gayeva. I would like to ask Yuri question. We, as a foundation, we work very actively on evacuation, and we understand that the question of placing or relocating of incapacitated people is very important. How we can place those incapacitated people, low mobile people. It's like it's done now manually, so in so-called manual mode. But it was not mentioned that the question of placing those people, it was said that it's first of all the question of the state government, national government, but we understand that the social services is being decentralized now, and we have a number of regulation for nursery support and 860 regulation for stationary care and support. And now we have the question to Yuri, where we could find this margin, this balance between the responsibility delineation of local self-governance and state executive authorities, how to resolve this problem. Thank you. Please answer concisely. It's hard to tell you. We have a problem, which I already stated. Local governments already doing everything to resolve this problem, not to leave people on the streets. So deinstitutionalization, which is now being done in the country, we understand, and everyone understands what we are talking about. It shouldn't be communal institutions. We should have centralized structure, accepting people, not depending on this regulation, because not everyone is capable to accept the psychologically impaired person and to care about this people. It's voluntarily. It's done voluntarily. It can take it person or not take it this person. Each regulation, each decree should have the authorized institution, not just to state some vague responsibilities, but my vision is that in this respect we need to have structure who would be obliged to resolve these questions. Thank you. And one more question, and let's move forward. Yana Burlutska, I am head of IDP in Voznesevsk City Council. I'm also a member of Nikolaev City Council. I was twice IDP from Luhansk and from Kharkiv from 2022. We have very powerful support in Kharkiv, and I have a question to Yuri. We heard that you have more than 150 partners in Kharkiv city, but I would like to know which budget funds this program for free of charge transportation and free of charge nutrition. And second, I would like to see where we can find these programs to have to see the details. You can find it available on Kharkiv City Council website. The transportation for passengers, it's financed by City Council budget. Thank you. Very big desire to ask, please. To ask question, please go ahead. Kharkiv Oblast. Head of IDP Council in Kharkiv City Administration, Oksana Radic. I'm very pleased to hear even this negative which been identified during the monitoring what I'm talking about. In fact, not every time the quantity of program define the quality. From another side, I am very glad that we have this cooperation between Oblast and the city. If we are talking about internally displaced persons, it's Kharkiv city. We used to all the time it was a student city, and now the largest quantity, which Yuri stated, is internally displaced person, which are living in a temporarily locations in the places where they've been located. And I'm very glad that representatives of the Ombudsman office in the regions, in communities, that we are united and we can cooperate. I'm very glad and hope that further on, as Maxim stated, and also representatives of IDPs Council who work in contact with parliamentary and those who work with Ombudsman office and to any other structure, either in city, either in oblast, it works because only when we are united, only in this way we can provide the quality support of the forcefully IDPs, because indeed, as it was stated, we didn't want to be replaced. Another suggestion from my side, and it's very painful question for IDPs from 2014, the accommodation, housing, they can participate in the normal way in the compensation program. Because it's a temporarily occupied area and it's very hard to provide any specific support or any specific program, and it's hard to substantiate or rationalize that the house was indeed destroyed. It's the most painful question, housing, accommodation, and to prove how we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for highlighting this issue, and thank you for mentioning that just uniting our efforts we can achieve something. So I think that we should move to the next session so that we could stick to our timeline. So let us thank our participants with a round of applause. And we are moving to the second block. If this first panel was about the situation at the places, now we'll be speaking about the rules, the framework and the state logics where these programs have to be shaped in. In the report we heard a very specific signal that without the legislative framework, without the updated approaches for the local programs, and without the coordination between the local and national levels, we have the situation that the communities are not moving on in the proper way, in the similar way. That's why we have informal programs, weak mechanisms for implementations, and the gap between the needs of the people and the solutions at the places. So this block will be about the authorities of the local authorities, the support of IDPs, the outcomes of the implementation of the strategy on the IDP to 2025, and what's important about the perspective for the adoption of the updated strategy for further years and its key objectives. I invite the participants to the stage, happily. So we have the MP of Ukraine, Maxim Tkachenko. We've already got acquainted with him today. Please, Maxim. I also invite to the stage Deputy Minister on Social Policy, Family and Unity of Ukraine on digital development, digital transformation and digitalization, Mr. Anatoly Komerny, a round of applause, and Deputy Minister of Economy, Environment and Agriculture of Ukraine, Mr. Vitaly Petruk, please. And the moderator of this panel will be Ksenia Getz, the Advocacy Coordinator of the charitable foundation Right for Protection, Pravo na Zachist. So please, Ksenia, I'm giving the floor to you. This round of applause is for you now. Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you for the Commissioner's Office for this important and timely report, because we understand that today we are at the stage of the transformation of the new policy on internal displacement. The main law to provide the rights and freedoms on IDPs is being transformed. The housing policy is being changed. The labor legislation will be changing. We developed the new law to provide the rights and freedoms, and in fact for the IDPs, and we also have the draft of the new strategy of the internal displacement. And in fact it seems to me that this event is not just what has been done and has to be done by local self-governance authorities, and the community is taking accosting the IDPs about what opportunities they have, and that they are not only executing the national programs for support, but also it's important that they're shaping the policy to protect the rights of the IDPs and the affected population, and they can create unique tools for support at the places. So, if you allow me not to waste time, let me move to our first speaker, Maxim. Could you please tell, in fact, As of now, the acting legislation foresees the development of the local programs at the level of discretion, and we understand that today the presented report mentioned rather worrying data that 16% of all of the programs out of 1,375 do not have specific outcomes. We don't have the indicators, we don't have the so-called KPIs. Still, 30% of them don't have them at all, 16% of them don't have specific measurable indicators. So, on the 11th of March 2026, the Parliament of Ukraine created a temporary investigative commission. So, this temporary commission will be dealing with the investigation of possible facts for the violation of legislation on the use of the money of the state and local budget which were allocated to support IDPs. It's a very important initiative. Could you please tell, does this temporary investigative commission plan to pay attention to the local programs in its work, for their funding, for their efficiency, productivity, and what's the most important, will the temporary investigative commission consider the level of the needs satisfaction for the IDPs in their work? Ksenia, thank you. First of all, I'm happy to see you, as always. Thank you for the moderation, thank you for the question, thank you for the announcement, which I also would like to mention that already we had the beginning of the works, and yesterday we had the second session of the newly created temporary investigative commission. I think that many of you have already met in this or that city or region. We met during the sessions of different temporary commissions, and the investigative commission was on humanitarian aid, and to be more specific, as it was properly mentioned, the theft of humanitarian aid, which we could see in 2022 and 2023. There was something to steal, so there were facts. In 2023, 2024 and 5, it was already the special commission. What's the difference between the special and the investigative ones? That the special commission pays more attention to the creation of some new legislative initiatives, some new offered resolutions to the government, amendments to the resolutions, but the investigative commission, which you're asking about, which we created, and the head of this commission has become the MP, who is also the IDP from Donetsk city, and he also used to work in Kherson city. I think you know him, Serhiy Kozer, who is the co-head of our interfaction MP union, the IDP of Ukraine. Yes, whatever you asked about and listed, all of that will be dealt with. And definitely one of the main sphere of work will be to go on with the work which the Office of Ombudsman did. Today we spoke about that during the first panel, and now we'll be speaking about that. We'll be speaking about the analysis of these programs, we'll pay attention to them, and the question which you would like to ask, I guess, and I will raise it as well, whether at the legislative level, if I don't properly formulate it, help me, whether at the legislative level we need to adopt certain compulsory programs from the local authorities, from the local self-governance authorities, which need to be sent for the support of the locals. Look, Yuri, people, well, let us be frank, people from Vovchansk, a huge number of them who are now living in your city. By the way, you have such a city, Kharkiv, which is an example, as well as Zaporizhia is and Mykolaiv is the complicated situation, but still, I'm sure, as I mentioned above, you will cope with that you have both a huge number of locals who are affected on a daily basis, as it is Kharkiv, and many people who moved to, I say that they are local displaced persons who moved within their region. But we understand that the people who moved to Kharkiv from Vovchansk, a huge number of them will become Kharkiv residents. So naming them IDPs, it's also the question, and the same question is to many city heads, or their deputies, line deputies, and IDP councils. So, the statistical data, 1 out of 10 answered whether they knew what's the number of the people came from which cities. No, they knew only the overall number, but they said that the attitude to them, that the treatment is equal, the similar. Thank you for that, but it's important to understand which category of people would, unfortunately, definitely stay as Kharkiv residents, or Zhytomyr residents, or Ternopil residents, and so on. We understand that the probability that the families from Bakhmut, Soledar, Pokrovsk, Popasna from Lugansk region, Avdiivka, we do understand that they would, in any case, even if this year or maybe later, well, let us hope and pray for the end of this cursed war, that they will still stay in these cities. I think that the local support and the local strategy on support of these people has still to be different about these or those people. People need to be talked with, people need to be taken into consideration whether they plan to come back to Kharkiv or not, to Mykolaiv, to Odessa or not, and so on and so forth. That is why, well, sorry for jumping from the topic to the topic, because I wanted to touch all of them, but my recommendation to the representatives today and altogether all over the country for the local self-governance authorities, pay attention to that as well. To these categories of people, which cities they moved from. And still we need to treat them as they're our own. Yesterday I sent the speech of Sadovy, Mr. Sadovy, to the chat, how he protects the interests of Lviv residents. I thanked him for sure and understand that Lviv residents are his own people, but unfortunately I did not see the same treatment to our people, to the IDPs. So I would like the city heads, the mayors, the MPs at the local level, at the local self-governance authorities, would start not only name IDPs with nice words during our meetings, but consider them to be their own residents. And during such meetings, during such support provided, how Mr. Sadovy has announced for the locals who have been affected after the shelling, the recent shelling. So let me conclude. We will deal with the issues of and analysis and audit of all of the money allocated from the state budget and local budgets, whether they have been allocated or not, the analysis of the program e-recovery, the allocated money since the very beginning of this program, analysis and efficiency of the program e-Oselya for the IDPs. Now we hear that e-Oselya is not working properly for the IDPs e-home, but still the government offers, and the Ministry of Economy offers, to take the program of youth housing for this program. I'm not saying that youth housing program is working perfectly, but I looked at their report. 1,600 families got the housing, the accommodation, and they have two donors. Grant money, this is not the money from the state, because whatever is offered by e-Oselya is the state money, and the support from the Ministry of Social Policy for e-Oselya is also the state money which is being allocated. But e-Oselya, since the very beginning and until the Ministry of Social Policy supports it, and after we begin it, you understand what I mean, the compensation who has been provided. Only 300 for families of IDPs used e-Oselya, 300 plus. And youth housing program is acting for the longer time, but 1,600 families have been using it. The efficiency of this program is higher. So why does the government, I have the question, would like to take it? And we'll consider it within our temporary investigative commission. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maxim. First of all, I thank you that you emphasized on the importance of the needs assessment for IDPs, the needs assessment of real people, not just the conclusions from this one. So it is the key one. And when we discussed during the first panel discussion why those programs are declarative, formal, and we said that the needs assessment at the level of the communities does not take place. And I could thank you for the whole community that soon, I hope, we'll have the new law to provide rights and freedoms of the IDPs. That is incredibly important, because the DOTI changes do not solve the issue that the support of displacement is being adapted and changes every year of this war, which is ongoing for more than 12 years. Now I give the floor to our next speaker, Anatoly Komirny. I would like to ask you, please tell how the strategy, the draft strategy of the state policy on internal displacement embeds this gradual transition from the fragmentary humanitarian response to formation of the systematic policy of support of IDPs, and in fact the acknowledgement of the community as the key integration level. So it's the first question. The second one, in this draft strategy, it is foreseen to create a digital integrated platform to support IDPs. Still, the draft law on the provision of rights and freedoms of IDPs, it is foreseen to have the e-cabinet of the IDP. So could you please tell our listeners and viewers how this digital platform will coincide with this e-account? And what's the main thing? I'm sure we are listened by the local self-governance authorities. What's the role of the local self-governance authorities in the actualization of information on the needs of IDPs? And why the definition of needs at the level of the community is key and important? Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to such an important discussion. I've heard lots of interesting points from the colleagues who had previous speeches, and I understood what are our mutual and cross sections, and I understood that the local level has the task for the implementation of everything which can be developed at the central level. The central level forming the policy can provide the framework, the rules, whatever, but only at the local level. When we speak about the IDP's location, we have this additional good for each person. What do I mean by that? Ksenia has mentioned about fragmentary nature and systematicity. In fact, it's not a new issue. The system where the IDPs are the only database for the IDPs exists since 2015. But we understand whether this system complies with the requests of today. It has been created when it used to be anti-terroristic operation, not for a long time, it was incomprehensible, so we wanted to create a smaller logbook to see where these people moved to. I've heard a lot about the declarative nature, how this registry has been filled in at the meetings today. It was good and sufficient 11 years ago, but not today, because as of today we already have 2 or 3 or 4 times more of people who had to move, internally displaced persons, after they've already been the IDPs before. Those are new challenges and the new requests for the people, the queries and inquiries for the people which need to be. I started from the last question of yours. The system is the thing which needs to create the permanent communication between the authorities, and I wouldn't like to separate the central and the local authorities. It was properly mentioned that the local authorities have to see who they have and how to communicate with them. The local authorities need to see more aggregated data so that they could respond to the new programs, and maybe adaptation of existing programs and is needed to improve efficiency. So that is in fact our request to this program as a state. But we need to ask through this program what has happened. The person could move, saying that, well, this is the real example. The person had to move, and he or she didn't have the opportunity, the need in housing. He or she moved to the relatives. 2 or 3 years passed, and the family, the hosting family, gave a birth to a child, and they couldn't host a guy anymore. This need emerged. The acting resolutions don't take that into consideration. Sometimes we cannot issue the IDP certificate when 9 months passed, but 9 months ago it was not needed. So without the system, without a collection of high quality info, we cannot say that really the system is working. That is why we speak about the fragmentary nature. We have the flat system. Who came? It's okay. Who did not come? Sorry. So we are changing this approach from scratch. When we have local communities, frontline ones, and we are working with them. I personally work with Kherson one, so that we could see who we have potential need in evacuation. That is step 0, which we are trying to embed into the system so that we could foresee what can be done later. Because now we can see at the transit centers there is an issue which was mentioned above, that is the displacement of people with mental disorders and people with disabilities who were not even in the institutions, but they were living at homes. They were taken care of by their parents, siblings, children, depending on who needed care. And while displacing, the centers of temporary accommodation does not take them because there can be people with dementia. The institutions do not want to take them, and we have the voluntary situation. We can't force people to get to the institution because they say we would like to go on taking care of the person. So we had such an approach that our programs need to change. Now I am moving closer to the point that we, as the Ministry of Social Policy, begin the development of the comprehensive process: evacuation, adaptation, integration. When we speak about the adaptation, we can speak about our new pilot project, which we launched, Resolution 301, with the help of which, and that's important to have the role of local communities, acquirement of little houses, so that the people, whether they were in Kharkiv region, Donetsk, Kherson regions, they used to live in the private sector for their whole life. Maybe they even had cattle, and many of them are not moving because they don't know where to move their chicken or a cow. So if we had the same facility or unit or object in Vinnytsia, Kirovograd, Cherkasy regions, those are big agrarian regions of ours, which have villages and settlements, we'll be able to provide this displacement efficiently. That's why we implemented this system. We would like it to work. We provide 500 million hryvnia of subventions to acquire such houses so that we could move such people to the safer areas. That will allow us to solve the issues which, unfortunately, are still not solved as of today. When we speak about integration, that is, it seems to me, it was very reasonably said by Maxim. It will be your point now. We, as the state, are ready to help and create programs, but definitely it is done at the level of local authorities, so that on the one hand, they could be received as their own. On the other hand, we should take into consideration the cultural factor which they used to have during the whole life cycle, because those are not 3-year-old children moving when you can easily retrain them. Those are not school children. Those are people who are grown-ups, who lived their lives. And all of us have some kind of background of ours, knowledges, customs, cultural points, so we just need to take them into consideration. And this is the main element of integration which needs to be there. The development of local cultural programs for the exchange of local cultural measures, so that we could reach everyone who comes to you with new knowledge which they used to know from TV, or maybe from some scary stories which were shown by during Ukrainian times, but from Russian narratives. don't go to Volyn or to west of Ukraine, it will be awful there. We need to provide that anew, that we are united, we understand your context, but we are not sharing, we're not separating people, we not divide them by these or those. We are all Ukrainians now. As for the strategy, it is at the hearings till tomorrow, so there are proposals added to the strategy. If each of you, any of you, has his or her own wishes to introduce amendments to the strategy, to the operational plan, please do that. Add them. We would be happy to do that, so that the tool which we are creating together till 2030 would be efficient, so that it wouldn't be just some kind of a paper which would be on the shelf, and in 4 years someone said, well, we succeeded in something but failed in something else. Let's have a new strategy. Let's make this document efficient, and let's work at the operational level. What's needed from the state, from the local authorities? You have a super cool tool, IDP councils. By Resolution 812, we'd like to introduce changes, amendments, to increase the institutional capacity of IDP councils. We'd like it to be an efficient tool of feedback to us. We are not always present in each of the regions and cities. We cannot always hear you quickly, but sometimes the problem needs to be solved quickly. So the IDP Council, a beautiful tool, let us use it. From our behalf, we've already offered our vision in the resolution. If you have any wishes, we'll be happy to listen to them. Thank you. Thank you, Anatoly. First and foremost, for the responsible leadership and for super important initiatives of the Ministry of Social Policy. So, in fact, the Resolution 301, which foresees subventions and the acquirement of houses in the rural areas to provide housing, creates the new model to provide accommodation for the IDPs, where the community is becoming the operator to provide housing. So the state becomes an investor, and this transition is so important. Thank you for that, and I appeal to you. You've heard that the process for the development of strategy is participatory, so use this opportunity and provide your proposals. I would like to mention about this program, Anatoly, and I can be sure saying that it's our own initiative on housing in the villages. Last year we started discussing it, but look, I used to say that to Tatiana and to Mr. Minister and to you, if you don't find a model, well, you may agree with that or disagree with that, and I'm interested in your opinion. If you don't find a model how this money can be used by the local self-governance authorities and how they can use it by the smaller villages so that this housing could become the family's property, then for the next year, I don't know how long we work as a parliament, we will never support money for this program anymore. Our idea was that the Ministry of Social Policy should launch the program Accommodation in Villages as an alternative to the program of the Ministry of Social Development, e-Recovery, so that it could be one more program to provide their own accommodation to the people, to those who are ready to get it and to live in the rural areas, not to wait for the voucher of 2 million. And we don't know how much time is needed so that these people who need accommodation to get this voucher finally, we don't understand how many years or decades will pass. So it was the initiative, after us personally acquiring several houses for our people as the volunteers in Cherkasy region, houses of 180, 200,000 hryvnia, then we could say, while we are waiting for the certificates for 2 million, 10 families could get the houses. In a week, we announced and had a survey who would like not to wait for 2 million voucher, but to get it now, this year. But it will be a house in the village. And 1,000 forms were filled in a couple of days of the people who are ready to get it, who agree to that. But still, under one condition, people can go to the village if we give them the keys and papers. And they say, that is your property now. But if we say people, it's a cool house, but you know it's still not yours, believe me, maybe the ones who are already in the rural area, and if you come to them and say you will not pay for the rent anymore. But let us be sincere. In the villages, in fact, thanks God, this is the kind of the shelter which is working. In the villages, many people don't pay for the accommodation, so it doesn't matter to them whether they live at somebody's place without paying or the community provides them as the social housing. There is no difference. But the essence of this program was an allocation of this first 500 million for you as the ministry to find a mechanism so that this housing, this accommodation could become a property of 2.5, 1.5 thousand, of 300,000 people. But looking at the example of Cherkasy region, I said that there are houses there of 150,000 to 200,000 hryvnia of price. But as the social accommodation, which will not be the property of the family, is not interesting as a program. It's not interesting for me personally, so I would not allocate money from the budget for that, honestly. Thank you, Maxim. We understand that Resolution 301 has become the synergy for the cooperation between the parliament and government, which is important. Now I give the floor to Vitaly, and I have a question as follows.
As Anatoly already emphasized in his report, talking about this subvention, that replacement should be smart. Replacement should be done not only depending on the criteria availability of some place of temporary accommodation or some little hut in the house, but it also should be connected with the place of job. Accordingly, the new draft strategy of internal displacement envisages for Ministry of Economy the creation of proliferation of the region and creation of interactive map showing the economic capabilities, resources, existing support programs, and also interactive location map, vacations map. So I have the question to you. How do you see the implementation of the system? The first question, and the second one in the context of, if we look at the report presented, we could see that all the activities relating to strengthening economic capabilities of IDPs' jobs, they only relate to those services provided by the job center. So do you see any mechanism or tools to stimulate and incentivize communities to create jobs or to introduce certain system of business support in that way that this program wouldn't duplicate the efforts, these local programs would not duplicate the state efforts, but would only complement it? Hello everyone, I will try to answer a little bit more extensively and I would also share some strategy of Ministry of Economy about the IDP strategy vision. So it's about the fact that IDP should be economically active. So this strategy and our elaborations, our programs, they are aimed at this very objective. How do we implement the three vectors we have? First one, professional adaptation of the IDPs. Second one, assistance in finding the job and reception of job, and also provide the support of entrepreneurship if available, if it has it, and to implement it, to realize it. And these vectors are being implemented by the Ministry of Economy. They've been implemented in the past and will be implemented in the future and being implemented now. So as for the 2025, what has been done already, the state job support service is used to implement some of our jobs initiative, but it's used as a mechanism, as a tool how we do it. And the result, I could also share some numbers with you. Last year, the services of state job support center was used by about 100,000 people, and from them 42,000 people have received the jobs out of those quantity. Also, these job services provide opportunity for training, requalification. We have about 8 training centers, providing opportunity to be trained according to 98 professions. And last year, already 8,000 people of IDPs used these opportunities, and this year around 2,000 IDPs already undergoing training. As for the entrepreneurship development, in the same way we have respective programs. Looking at numbers, we have almost 200 positive decisions on grants for IDPs, and we can also talk about some socially beneficial works. 22,000 people last year were involved in there. Also, the support is being provided to compensate job salaries to the employers who employ IDPs. And that's, to put it very shortly, about the last year results. Talking about the future and what we are working in present, at the beginning of 2026 we have a stage jobs program endorsed till 2030. We have the program, the agenda to 2026, and there we have this set of measures envisaged within this framework of these 3 criteria. And also within the it's jobs, adaptation and housing that was reported by my colleagues. I will not dispute with them, but indeed it's from 2022 only 1,225 people used a year Osela service. It's very low quantity, I agree, but still this program works. And we think that the DSL program implemented by Ministry of Finances is effective, is positive and right. It gives an opportunity to realize on the market what can be realized there. But we are talking also about the fact that we need to use that has been already worked out, and to extend these opportunities, or to extend this set of tools that this housing service already have. We know that Ministry of Social Policy now implements and envisages the question of creation of renting the social accommodation service, and this social accommodation would give more opportunities with the same amount of money for more quantity of people, to give them some housing for more quantity of people with a shorter amount of time with the same amount of money. That's we are also preparing and ready to support to Житло. What we also did in February, we endorsed amendments to 250 decree. To Decree 250, which allows to provide housing for IDPs without auction for 1 hryvnia. And we are working on that, and we'll be elaborating it further on. It's put in a nutshell. Thank you. We've been talked through all the questions we had to talk about, and indeed, it's important that the self-governance authorities and territorial communities would see the responsible actor not only implementing national programs for IDP support, but also takes active role, creates its own initiatives, and or extends the existing ones, because we understand there is a number of communities and regions where there is the refinancing for interest rate within Yersela. So it's a tool for local support programs where we have the opportunities for the communities to integrate IDPs, and thus the prosperity and development of communities. So thank you very much. And giving the floor to our moderator. Thank you, Ksenia. Thank you, all the speakers. I remind you that you can ask questions in the room or online. And I would start with a question in the chat. Kvita Zaburna to Vitaly. why as quotation, why in Yasela program it's not decreased the interest for IDP to 3% and not increased the age for 50 years at least. I know for sure that this question is being reviewed now, but it depends on the capabilities of Finjit law to implement and to provide these requirements. Because first of all, Finjit law is, in our case, is a financial institution which should correspond to the criteria of involvement of funds to implement the programs which are being implemented. But these questions is being elaborated and not closed so far. So these changes are not being made yet. Yuri Zykov, Deputy Head of IDP Council in Kyiv Military Administration. My question is about new programs that you talked about. So about the program of Держжитло, own house, of Vlastny Dim. There is a subvented crediting program for 3% for IDPs. Not just IDPs, but those people who are there. And the financing of the program is limited for this year. It's almost absent. It's co-financing with the state and financing with the communities. So we have parliamentary, we have Minister of Social Policy reps who can talk about that and tell us more about that. So please, in a concise manner, tell us about it. Look, those who know it, I hope that here in this room at least 98% understand the structure of government. So all the programs submitted by executive authorities to the budget to be financed or add or decrease, generally they're asking about to add money. So the government submits it and parliament supports everything of it. We support it in this year. Again, we gave the chance for Minister of Social Policy would do anything, would do something to announce the program, to find some mechanism for the people, IDPs, to find subvention to rent the accommodation, rent the apartment. Because when this program was launched, this whole previous year it was dead. And now we are asked, give us change, give us money. Parliament asked, vote it. We voted for it. Somebody would ask whether this program worked. It didn't work. So this question to the Minister of Social Policy, where are those money which we voted for? These 500 millions for houses in villages for the people. I didn't understand till the end what this program, because we have this program has been bred to the very large quantity. So yeah, we will not dispute, but still to you, to Minister, I didn't say that yes, it doesn't work, but compared to this program Molodjitlo, it works in a little bit weaker manner. In Molodjitlo, the conditions which moderator just read and what the people are asking about, those criteria and those conditions about crediting what the people are asking. This Molodjitlo gives exactly these conditions, and Yasela doesn't give those conditions. So why do we need some additional program? Let's, as a government, you, all the ministries will unite and will leave this program, that program which works. Which is liked by people, which is receiving grants from partners, but not just a government will give budgetary money. And let's strengthen this program. That's what I was talking about. So, if the parliament was addressed, 100% parliament has dispensed money for it. If not, if you didn't have this money, then the government didn't address to the parliament about it. This program from the state budget to the local budget. The responsible person for this program is Ministry of Development. So any budget planning for any year is submitted from Ministry of Development. So I think nobody from the present here can comment why this very amount has been planned. But thank you for emphasizing this question. We will write an appeal. Please come, Lena, please raise a question. Come here, we will write the appeal about this program specifically. Ola, please. Hello. Antonina, Olga, I would continue this very topic and to talk a few words about Asela. We think that, first of all, the indicators talk about themselves. This more than 1,000 for more than 4 years, it's not a great indicator. It's a very low quantity. It's not stimulating people. It stimulates only market economy, the building of new places, but doesn't help those people who lost everyone. You remember what we started this day with, that people have lost everything. So the mortgage for those people is very strange way. It looks very strange. So it's 2023, 22, 24. We saw that the local self-government authorities have been planning the compensation of interest for Asela. So they related only veterans, for only veterans. So there was no IDPs there previously. Just a small comment from me. I think everyone will support it. Asela maybe is a good tool, but we need first of all to decrease first payment. We need to decrease interest rate. We need to enlarge the term. We need to revision also the age. And every year we hear the same, that it's been elaborated. We are doing it, and we now have 26, and nothing is going on. But I think we need to do something, not just talk about it. It is a rhetorical question. It's been heard already. And another question I have for you connected with this very activity. How do you think, which points should be took into account the local programs for the self-government authorities, development of entrepreneurship, jobs? What should local communities do to develop your direction, the direction which you are responsible for? The question for Vitaly. Thank you. And so no comments for Asela, right? Okay, thank you. As for the programs, here, first of all, I forgot to mention in my speech that the Ministry of Economy, with the Ministry of Digitalization and with the Job Service, works on OBRI program. It's a complex information analytic integrated system which will give an opportunity and enable IDPs and other citizens and also local governance authorities to see. Well, it's directed to support people looking for job. Maybe it's not very good way to say from me. It's going to be a systematic program which will help the job service, where every employee who looks for the job will have the tool integrated, where all the compliant people will be integrated with all the information about skills, profession, previous experience will be integrated. New skills, requalification will be there also. And this program will have an opportunity to show the regional capacity in terms of available jobs, about the quantity of people looking for jobs, about the available profession. So it will be a holistic program, a holistic system that will give an opportunity and enable either also employers and employee where to find jobs, how to provide jobs. So where we have demand and where we have supply, we have these jobs. So far we have first results. The first main setting up has been provided, and the finish is first quarter 2027. For my opinion, it will be 400% great support for the local governance authorities to be integrated and to look how to use the available jobs, and that's what I forgot to mention. So it's going to be a great result. And plus, the directions which Ministry of Economy is responsible for, first of all, it's a question of grants. for entrepreneurship and industry. The framework that's been introduced, the legal framework, gives an opportunity or using the local budget to cover expenditures in the direction of UAVs, drones, up to 75% of grant additionally. And all the rest, all the other directions for the industry, of the production industry, which use the state grants up to 50%. We have a great example in Lviv, who people use this grant and they support local business by the extent of local budget. Thank you for the great answer. We have another question. Please introduce and whom the question you're asking. Oleg, two-time replaced, I'm professional replaced person to the veteran, the combat veteran, deputy head of Volyn IDP Council. Ksenia said a very great, asked a very great question. Which are the great programs should stimulate local authorities, because local authorities not always capable, not always desire to help IDPs. I travel all around Ukraine and we have a lot of examples. 1186 decree implementation. It's like a pilot decree now, which has low result, unfortunately. So we're talking about only veterans, IDPs, and then other categories. But the implementation is very, very negative. It's very bad. And there is no information. All the timelines were breached, deadlines were not adhered. People didn't know what's going on. The application for appeal still absent. People are losing hope. And I would add also this very unclear thing is that endorsements of application is done by the local government authorities. And now we can see how local governance is working, because in Vinnytsia Oblast, the commission was gathered right on the next day. It's been endorsed, as 300 applications were endorsed. In Volyn Oblast, we still don't know whether they gathered or not. So you can see that's how the situation we have. The international partners give us money, but this process performed very well. But what we have now is that the local group should have local commission and endorse what's been already submitted to DIA. It's already been verified, and now we still have the program is not fulfilled, it's failed, and we only have information from some advocates, some attorneys, and still we don't have no legal information about this program, despite the fact it's a pilot program. And we need to work on it so the people could receive something out of this program. And I would work on different level, on different ministries, on the level of parliament to make it more perfect. I would so give us recommendations. What exactly we need to do? Should we adopt a new law? Speak in mic, please. So, okay, please, Yuri, we have local governance. Maybe they will tell what we need to do so some administration could do it. Because we see this discrepancy, this gap in the approaches between different presentations. In Dnipro, we invited military on the same meeting, and I am asking military, as our president said to Mr. Orban, this guy, and I'm asking military, come to military to the Dnipro City Council and talk with your own language, that they would do their job. If we have all Ukrainian programs, so in Kharkiv we have this program working well. No questions. More than 1,000 applications were reviewed. Only, and some were omitted only in the related to the fact that some people, they have the property on the occupied territories or some shares. What we need to do, I think this Soviet practice to create some advisory bodies on the level of cabinet of ministry, we need to get rid of it. What's commission? You know how they work. Where we need to sign, give us document, we'll sign, and that's it. It is just unnecessary duplication. We need to find the responsible body and which need to enact it. So DIA works great, the legislative mechanism works great, so you need to get rid of the advisory boards and just establish one unit who will be responsible, and that's it. Yes, that's why we have this type of platform. We are getting new solutions. And for information, please give people information. You still haven't given the information to people. What's the process gonna be? What's the procedure? How to get money for the people? No official information from this state. Do we have Ministry of Development representatives? No, we don't have them. Nothing new. All the same. I don't know what to do with Kuleba, with Rybikin. They are just inadequate. If they didn't even come here to you, 90% of the questions that you are raising to the Ministry of Development, we fixed it, okay? Head of IDP Council of Sumy Oblast, Kalinichenko. This community head is on the border with Russia. A question to Ministry of Development, but I'm rendering from my audience, our IDPs. The 815 decree is very good, only 6 months, and we already have result through remote inspection. We can get compensation for the accommodation. More than 300 already have certificates and accommodation, but we have a but. If this village is located on the border and its street is fully destroyed, only one house there, person cannot get compensation because the air picture says that there is one house there still. Can we make amendments to the decree that the people can have compensation? Of course, it will not go to repair this house because everything is crushed and it's mined all around. That's a question. We have to amend this decree so it could take into account this situation, this requirement, this need for the IDPs, and we have situation throughout all the territory of Sumy. It's a buffer zone, 20 kilometers, so we don't have almost no house which is not destroyed. The person cannot get compensation. He cannot go there, and either he can't use the compensation. Thank you for emphasizing this. I think it will be rendered to the relative representatives of the relevant ministry. Thank you, Vitaly Zubak, Norway Council for the Refugees. Thank you for Olya Mykolaievna, Mr. Valery, and the Commissioner for the great report. I have the ministry question to the Ministry of Social Policy. To Anatoly has been already stated the strategy for IDPs. We had the previous 125, now the new one. The previous strategies, let's be honest, we have a lot of indicators which are just formal. How the Minister of Social Policy sees a new strategy in the context of synchronization of the programs, of the local programs with the budget of communities and with relation to implementation and usage of the local services. How do you see this synchronization between real budgets, which are scarce, unfortunately? First, we took into account what we can give to the local communities, not what we can demand from local communities. And when we were traveling all around the territories, we saw the problem, which is ancient, the salaries of social workers, and we amended. We made necessary amendments. It was our first step to have the systematic work and not simply demanding do it now and not giving any tools for that. We are talking about state tools which were developed, and this instrument for subvention was developed, and we can't just order the local government authorities, communities, which money needs to be dispensed where. But we heard quite an interesting statements and experience about Kharkiv, what they are doing on the local level for the IDPs. Considering the tax for land and other incentives, they involve the economically active category of people to raise and develop their local economy, and that should be understood by everyone, by every local community, that people are getting GDP, they are developing and raising it. We can help either by state programs from our own side. If you are lacking something, we can add it, or we can involve some active business entrepreneurship together with the parliamentaries, with the MPs. What we did with Yanchenko is a program Prihostok or Shelter. That's how our system works when the entrepreneurs and business are ready to give money for accommodation, for housing. So the local governance should understand people as an economic asset for their region. Thank you, Anatoly, for the comment or question. I have a question. Very briefly, please. Just one question. Okay. Thank you. Continuing the role of local government, local communities and cooperation, we have relocated communities which have been replaced and provide and do their work. They are developing their own programs, and now we have a few questions. Who is the target audience of this program? And maybe it's not a IDP policy, maybe some different policy. So what it leads to? It leads to the fact that the responsibility for IDPs is vague. It's unclear. 2 days ago, I talked with some IDP community. Just recently, they came to our western region, and they telling them that you have your own local community, you need to address them, and they need to send them humanitarian assistance with Nova Poshta. How do you envisage this question and the role of relocated communities and their further activities? In part, this question already been answered by the fact that we need to accept people as our own people, and this we have the responsibility of the community itself. It was with Mr. Maxim, we had the same idea. Just a small example in Sumy. It was a meeting that we were together in Kuleba, Maxim Vladimirovich Kuleba, in the cabinet, and your colleague, he was stating that in Zolotonosha area we have successful story of success, these houses, and we took this case and extended it. We don't have this is mine, this is not mine, this is yours. MPs, governance, local governance, we still are taking responsibility for this activity, for the result. It's a human factor which unfortunately we won't be able in any way to get rid of. We're talking about people relations between people. A great example of Mariupol, dealing with their people and giving them a lot of assistance, a lot of support. It's a great example of how you need to work with relocated communities. That's what we see, what we hear directly from the people who received the support, received the services. When we have a lack of understanding, we need to raise it a level up. We work with charity foundations who can help, who can assist, and they will not raise this question. Each region has large, great organizations. Now, not everyone works with it, but sometimes work only with humanitarian missions like Caritas, like Red Cross. But there are also other ones who help in a more broad sense, despite the Red Cross, Caritas, but in this, they still, it was a slip of a tongue, they still help IDPs. But there are still problems that are not resolved on the local government, and we will help on our level with the help of the partners, with the cooperation to the people who need it.
Unfortunately, our participants don't hear you without the mic. Let us discuss this topic during the informal communication. The last question, which is rather important. Okay, the last question, but please, in a nutshell. Okay, I have a question to the representatives of the MPs and Ministry of Social Policy in particular. Are there any tools as of today or mechanisms of the factual verification of IDPs community by community? Maybe we, as an IDP Council, don't know about these mechanisms or tools, or maybe you could help us develop those mechanisms. I know for sure in 2014 and 2015 this verification took place all over the communities. In fact, IDPs, so that we could understand who to work with, what's the number, what are their needs. Can you help us? Could you comment on that? Thank you. Look, now we don't have the speedy or rapid tool. What did we have in 2022? I was in a different ministry, and I was responsible for the system which was looking where the people were moving to. That was the Ministry of Development. It had a different name, and all of the cell phone operators provided depersonified data so that we could understand during the full-scale invasion how our people moved, what region from and to, so that we could know how to respond. And then this system was not supported anymore. That is why we do not see any detailed info. We have our own system of IDPs where people have registered themselves, and the only thing what's left for us, I know where they registered, in which center of administrative services provision or affiliated to which city. So through the authorities of social protection of this city, we can make calls whether they are okay, whether they need help, or whether they are still staying there. As of today, this is the only option. Today, we have the opportunity to check who left abroad, who did not, through the verification of the Ministry of Finance, which is in the acting resolution. We'd like to do that at least to understand who of the registered IDPs are still in the country and who already left for abroad. But so that you at the local level could understand it, you need to make this communication in order. It will not be done quickly in one paper. This is the primary list, and then you need to make calls and actualize the data with the IDPs which you have already. Thank you, Anatoly. Mostly this is the sign of the really cool discussion when there are lots of questions. Okay, definitely the lostest, but the mic first, and then that's it, because we need to let our speakers go, and we are also waiting for informal communication. Could you please speak brief? I'm Yaroslav Turinets, Charitable Foundations, Heed SOS, East SOS, IDP Council at Kyiv Military Administration. As for employment, Vitaly, and economic involvement, we understand that this question is really very interacting with their housing issue. In our work within the foundation and within the IDP Council, we are analyzing at the integration of the IDPs issues, and we can see such a tendency that in particular those plans of measures which are being implemented by the employment service are duplicating. So that is what Dmytro mentioned. They are duplicating in the plans for the support at the places. For instance, the issue of consultation on career opportunities or grant provision or vouchers allocation. So this is the question then, whether it is a kind of a formal approach that is the kind of the distortion of the essence for the statistical indicators, and what safeguards could you implement to incentivize local self-governance authorities and to develop efficient mechanisms for incentivizing. Okay, we got the question. Vitaly, could you be as brief as possible? Thank you for the question so much. The thing is that, in fact, if we look what the Ministry of Economy has done, we've approved the strategy of employment, which has to be the focus, the direction. We are using it. We show what we do. We show the plans. We approve them. And that is, in fact, the focus for the local authorities. This is the factor, because we need to be affiliated with someone, to connect it with someone. So if you've got any of the examples, we can separately discuss that. And I'm ready to listen to you now and to take the developments, what duplications exist. But in fact, I urge you to focus on the approved strategy, because there is the component for the local authorities there and what we use, so that we wouldn't have the points which you mentioned before. Thank you so much. Really, there will be the opportunity to go on with the communication during informal part. Let us thank our speakers with a round of applause. Thank you so much. Now we are moving to the final part, and with a greatness I am giving the floor to Ms. Olga Altunina, the representative of the Commissioner on the issues of the people affected by the armed aggression. A round of applause, please. Thank you. In fact, it's very easy to make conclusions because we've heard everything already. We heard the problematics, we heard what needs to be done. We tortured the ministries a bit, thanks them that they were courageous enough and that they came in comparison with the Ministry of Development, which had more questions. But the topic of our today's event is about the local programs, so I'd like to speak to those who are here in the audience representing the local authorities at the regional level, the ones who are online with us representing the local communities. I'd like to say that our event and our analytics was not just the one-time event. We will definitely delve deeper whether the recommendations were implemented, whether your approaches were changed, because today the Commissioner was very loyal, saying that sometimes the programs exist, but they are not filled with contents. I saw the program of a huge million population city when the program itself was not about the IDP housing, not about the support programs of the future entrepreneurs from the IDPs or any other real tools. It was about the excursions over the city, just events in the hub, some printed products, and honestly, I'm really ashamed of that. It's shameful. I wouldn't like the programs to have 100 of pages. They can be one-page program, but it should be very specific. We'd like to provide social housing for 10 indicators, so there will be an indicator and the point of the program, how much money would be sufficient to provide that. So I urge you, from behalf of all of the IDPs, talking to the local communities, regional authorities, please update your programs. Just imagine yourself in the shoes of IDPs, and when you take certain decisions, ask the IDPs themselves whether they think these or those points are needed by them so that they could be embedded in the programs. Thank you. I have a pleasant point to discuss. I'd like to invite here Maxim Mykolaievich. Could you please join me here? There was the Day of Human Rights Protection in December. We wanted to congratulate you, but you were in your business trip, so I think this is the cool reason and a very reasonable moment to thank you that you are protecting the human rights and the rights of the IDPs. Thank you so much. And I guess you should have done that, but I will take your job, and I would ask you not to leave. We have the opportunity to communicate, to share business cards, to come up. The IDP councils can come up to the local authorities. They can communicate, pose the questions, be constructive, offer some of the proposals. We have time for coffee to communicate and find some of the common grounds. Thank you for the participation, especially for those who were staying with us online for such a long time. See you soon. Thank you.